I still miss the countdown. You know, we're like 7 seconds in here already. I'm like, how much?
We're longer than that. I'm looking at it and going, hey, wait.
Yeah. So today's episode is on listening. And, you know, I was talking to Andrea upstairs during one of my breaks. My office is in the basement. As a true IT person, I am a basement dweller.
There we go.
I am in my basement. I'm going to call it my wife's basement just to give it some flavor. Like I live in my wife's basement. It's not my mom's basement. It's my wife's basement. Anyways, you know, so she gets the fancy office upstairs and I get the corner in the basement because I run all green screen anyways.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, well, what's your topic going to be this week? I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe listening. She's like, ooh. The thing is, I could tell that she was trying not to say anything. Her face didn't move. Because I am known for interrupting people and driving conversation. And so Skip's always trying in the podcast to like interject and like I'm just on a roll. Or sometimes Skip's on a roll and I'm trying to interject. And you know, learning to listen to our clients. Like if you get me in front of a client, I'm great.
Yeah.
You know, you get me in a peer group, I tend to hog the time, but I'll be like, okay, Adam, you need to sit back and listen for a little bit. And even if you want to say something, don't. Let other people say it.
Yep. And that was definitely one of the challenges I had to tackle early on. And I can't say that I've actually done a great job at it, but I am very cognizant of it. You know, I tried using some simple tools. I always have a drink with me when I'm at meetings. And it gets me to stop and, you know, take a sip of, you know, whatever it is. And that gives an opportunity for someone else to speak. So sometimes it's just little things, but that listening element is really, really important. It goes back to what I feel is, you know, just kind of a stereotypical mindset we have when we show up for so many of our engagements is that we're there with all the answers, that we're there to provide all this information and then we'll ask a simple question at the end and they'll give us a simple answer and we'll be done. And that's not the case. We've got to work and make these conversations much more collaborative.
Yeah. Going back and forth, like building an idea. So if any of you have ever taken an active listening class, have you ever taken one of these, Skip?
I have not. I probably should, but I have not.
They're very formulaic in how you have conversations. So I feel like these classes tend to take the playfulness out of conversations, go back and forth. But also because of the structure, you are able to dig in a little bit more. So what I hear you saying is that you want to listen more or me to listen to you more. What I feel like you're saying is that this. So you're using terms like I feel. You're using terms like here's what I see. So you're saying, I'm not saying, Skip, this is what you're telling me and this is what we're going to do. I'm saying, so I feel like you're saying that I should be doing this more. And that way you're taking the onus off of the other person and putting it in your own words of what you received. So Skip may, you know, come in and tell me for 5 minutes about this new feature he wants in the software. Mm-hmm. And if I tune to Skip out and I only heard like 30 seconds of it, because Skip will throw the squirrel up on the screen every once in a while, like Adam's off. I lost him. Yep. And, you know, at the end, if I say, well, okay, so what you want is you want me to have a better integration with Enable and you want to behave like this. And it's going to be like, you completely missed this. I was actually talking about, you know, IT Nation next week. And it just becomes this, I missed what the client was saying. Mm-hmm. And so active listening is a great technique. It's very formulaic that you can use to set a tone of like, I'm really trying to get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So what is your client saying? Or are you too busy telling your client what to think? Or are you trying to work with them, as Skip said, to build a conversation so they know what you're saying, you know what they're saying, and you're both curious as to how we're going to come to a solution together.
Yep.
Your client may be saying to you, we need to cut costs. What are they actually saying?
Yeah. I mean, they need to cut costs because they're about to go out of business. They need to cut costs because they're reallocating funds for a business growth. Yeah, there's lots that goes into that. And we assume cut costs. Oh, great. I just got to, figure out how to cut costs. But yes, dig into that. Why? Why do you need to cut costs? Is it because you're having trouble getting manpower? Well, maybe you have some solutions for that. And so you can turn these things around so that they're not cost-cutting conversations. They're
Yes.
investment conversations.
Yeah, you can look for flags in a conversation. Sometimes it's hard. This takes a lot of practice. Like Adam Walter is still terrible at listening. My brain has ADHD and it's very hard. I have to work really, really hard to listen to people. It is something I actively have to work at. Other people just do it naturally. Oh, you're such a great listener. Not me. Like I'm constantly trying to build the conversation and play off what somebody said. And it's not that I want to say just about myself, but I want to show that I empathize. I want to show that I'm getting it. And, I have to work really hard at focusing on what somebody is saying, especially when they speak slowly or without inflection. If you want to see Adam Walter go insane, watch me at a presentation. You see me like, unless this person is speaking dynamically, like I'm like, okay, how long until I can go to the bathroom? How long until I can get out of here?
Well, I think another thing that, and being a bit stereotypical here about males, we're trying to fix something, right? Isn't that the standard problem in relationships is, the husbands don't listen to the wives because the husbands are always trying to fix the problem. There's a great YouTube video out there about listening in the nail. All right. You got to go see it. But anyway, and I think as IT guys, we do the same thing. We hear our clients say a few things, and then our brain immediately starts trying to solve a problem with technical, elements to that. And we should stop and evaluate the problem. I mean, if you've got a ticket lands in your queue, someone, can't get to a network. All right. There's a couple of things, you're trying to ping, once you've identified that, hey, this is not just a simple problem, you start digging deeper. You start looking at, hey, what layers are up and running? What aren't? When did this problem go down? And you really work through it until you come to an ultimate solution. Well, we should do the same thing in our client conversations. Don't treat your QBRs, and when your clients say something in a QBR, as a level 1 ticket where they just don't know which printer to pick out of the list, right? Yep. It's almost always going to be more complicated than that, and you need to treat it as such and dig deeper into those issues so you know what's going on.
Yeah, and you can come up with better solutions that way. There's so many times, and I think I've ranted about this on the podcast before, where I see people in IT forums and they say, hey, how do I convince my client to buy this thing? Mm-hmm. How do I get my client to understand? And it's these conversations. It's I. Mm-hmm. And it's all about your opinion. And I think, to what you said about tickets earlier, you get a ticket. Somebody's asking for you to tell them what to do. Mm-hmm. You get a ticket. Somebody's asking you. So you've lived in a world where people are constantly coming to you asking for your opinion. But have you learned to reciprocate that? And I think I'm trying to remember the last time we had a podcast on this topic. And we talked about how, like, in classrooms, you have been trained for 18 straight years to listen to the teacher and ask questions when they give you permission to.
Yep.
You listen. You don't get a voice. And so now you're an adult and you expect this is how adults behave. You listen to me because I am the authority. I am the technician. You will listen to what I have to say. Well, my clients don't listen to me. And it's because you're not creating and building a conversation with them. You don't truly understand a problem. In ignorance, you're thinking, I know the solution they need. They just need to listen to me. Are you sure you're not projecting and the fact that they're
Yeah.
trying to explain a problem to you and you don't get the issue.
Mm-hmm.
You need to turn this around somehow and figure out, okay, maybe the reason why they're not buying into my solution is because it's the wrong solution. So they're saying like, hey, I'm trying to cut costs and you're trying to sell them more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you just get this, you would be secure and you wouldn't have to worry about this stuff. Like, I'm worried about paying my employees tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
You're the first on my chop list, man. You're overhead. You are
Yes.
administrative
Yes.
fees. In your mind, you see like if you kill your IT off, you're not going to be able to support your computers. Well, at least my employees will have insurance and be paid tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We'll still be on business. And so now you can switch out and say, okay, from my hearing is like, is it you want to cut costs because there's a cheaper solution out there, or is there a way I can help you financially to grow your business by, $2,000 next month?
Is there efficiencies that I can help you with? You say you need to cut cost. I think a lot of times because we're in the room and okay, there's probably a realistic level to this. Don't just assume it's always going to be IT cost, right? And if you're working with your clients in the right way, you will diminish that view that IT is just a cost. And you can begin shifting that so that IT is an investment. And because investments generate returns, people don't want to necessarily minimize their investments.
Yeah.
Right? They talk about, I can afford to invest this much. Right. And that's a different perspective. But listen to those and get that feedback. You say you need to cut costs. Great. What are some of your top level costs? Where are you spending money that you feel is significantly impacting your business? What top level expenses do you feel don't provide a return on investment? Right? If they list you in there, well, now you know exactly where part of the problem is, but they may list other things. They may be saying, I'm paying a ton of money to, a software platform and we don't use half of the resources that are in it. Okay. Well, maybe you help them migrate to a better solution. Mm-hmm. That's probably not something that you're pushing because you've checked out. Yes, they have a CRM. I probably don't need to do anything there. You're fine. But listen to them. And if they think, it's too much, well, maybe they need more benefits out of it. Maybe you can track down some more training. Maybe they need that. There's just a lot that can go into that. And you become part of a solution that takes their costs and makes them investments. And that's an important place.
And that's where we talk about listening to the client business theory, right? So, you know that they have these 50 solutions in place and they're only using like 5% of them. Mm-hmm. And the client goes, man, I really wish there was a way for me to do better presentations or better blah, blah, blah. I wish there was some way to track customers. Now, I think it was back on 2018 or so, Skip, you and I did that Microsoft Office 365 audit form. And it was because people were like, I wish there was a way to track my customers better. Well, did you know that Office, or I think it was Outlook at the time, had Outlook CRM?
Yeah.
I think that product sunsetted, but the idea is that there were all these solutions like MileIQ and all these things in the solution set at the time that clients didn't know about. Mm-mm. Now, because there were so many, you're just picking and choosing off the top of your head which ones they want. And if you would stop and listen to the client and say, what are you trying to accomplish this year? What are your pain points? Do a SWOT analysis. Mike Giovanni and I are going to talk about this IT Nation SWOT analysis and risk assessments. What we want to do is say, tell me what your pain points are. And maybe I can point out something in an existing solution you have that's going to solve this problem for you and help make you money. Mm-hmm. You start tracking your mileage with MileIQ. Now you're making a lot more money because your overhead went down. You're now able to write off more mileage for your vehicles because now your employees are recording it. You're getting an extra $10,000 every spring because you were recording your mileage. But it might not be mileage. It might be something else that they have like, oh, you're already paying for that. Why don't you use it? Well, we don't know how. Well, lunch and learn.
There we go. Let's figure it out. Let's help you get the value out of the expenses that you have right now. And ultimately, if they can't get a value out of it, then you can help them cut those costs. But if you're part of this evaluation process, then you're valuable. And so what you're doing for them is investing in their business, and they'll see that as an investment. And again, people don't like to cut investments. They'll cut costs, but they don't want to cut their investments. So that's what the listening skills is going to enable you to do, is to get in there and be part of their success rather than just a cost.
Yeah, and listening skills don't just apply to like your clients. It's a great way to make money. I guarantee you, if you listen to your clients and about their problems, you will make more money. And they'll make more money because you're going to offer up solutions to gaps they have. But also with your employees, are you having a hard time with churn in employees? You have desktop admins who are constantly quitting because of one reason or another. Like, I just can't retain employees. Maybe sit down and listen and see why. What are their career opportunities? There was a great effect that happened. I think it was like mid 2000s, maybe late 2000s, where it was the 2000 teens, like right around 2013 or so, where these sysadmins were tired of just working themselves to death. And so you had these very seasoned officers who weren't looking for money. They were looking for a culture fit.
Yes.
And so they would leave the company they were at, even though they were well compensated and they were doing their job and they were a high performer, but they were tired of missing out on life.
Yep.
They were tired. I know I was a good engineer. I burned out hard. And if somebody had come up to me and offered me a $75,000 a year job where I didn't have to work weekends and nights anymore, I'd have been okay. I'm in.
Yep.
I can come in and just work an 8 to 5, or maybe an occasional 8 to 7. Like, I'll take the $50,000 pay cut, because I was so tired. And
listening to your peers, you mentioned IT Nation coming up, and it's always funny. I'm definitely not the extrovert personality, so I'm listening a lot at these, not because of my great listening skills, just because I don't necessarily want to be out there talking all, but there is a particular type of person who shows up at these conferences and they have all the answers, right? You tell them, something comes up about a RMM tool or how to deploy this, something about Apaches, and they're going to tell you nonstop, how it's supposed to be done. They've already figured out all the problems. And it's always funny. When I hear those, I stop and think, I'm like, why are you here? If you have all the answers, why did you come to a conference? So
a beer.
Maybe that's it. I mean, that's expensive, but anyway, I enjoy that. I get to do it with our members constantly. I feel like I have a pretty good experience and understanding of, the day-to-day operations inside MSPs, but I am constantly taking the time to say, hey, tell me about that. People are migrating platforms. I'm like, so why don't you like that one? While in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, hey, that one's really great. Why would you ever leave that? Right. But I don't lead with that statement. I want to understand, what is their problem there? Why do they want to change this up? And usually, I get it now. It's not the problem I thought it was. It's something else. And I learn a lot. So if you're not learning when you're meeting with people, it means you probably have bad listening skills. You should really be learning in these conversations.
You should walk away from the conversation with something new. And this is going to be a mind-blowing experiment for you as a human being. If you aren't used to this, you should walk away from every conversation you have with somebody with something new. And the reason why that's mind-blowing for a lot of people is like, I am here to tell you about me. It's not a conversation, that's a presentation. If you're walking into a conversation with even my child, and say, hey, how was your day? I talked to Elijah. Hey, how was your day? And he tells me something new that happened in my day. I learned something new. They had this new game they played during PE today, and he thought it was really fun. Or Maybe I learned about like he's starting his chocolate chapter in culinary class or in, this culinary class. Like, that's really cool. I learned something new about that person and about their day. Also learned something new about the school system and what they're teaching. And I can interject and say, hey, well, chocolate's really interesting. What are you guys learning? And asking probing questions. I'm learning something new. And, I'm also training my child to do that to other people, like ask questions.
Yeah.
And if you listen to kids talk, it's a very selfish talk. Watch two kids talk. Yeah. Very rarely will they ask questions when they talk. And it's not because some people say all kids are jerks. But anyways, all babies are jerks.
Yeah.
But anyways,
they're just selfish. It's okay.
Very selfish.
Yes.
But as they grow, they learn empathy and they learn, are you okay? Can I help? But in natural conversation, like, do you like this? Elijah is very good at, like, when we go camping, he gets on his bike within the first 30 seconds of us setting down the camper. While I'm still setting up camp, he's walking around asking people like, hey, you want to hang out?
Yeah.
Hey, I saw a playground down there. You want to go? Where are you from? He asks questions and he starts building a relationship immediately. That's early in life. He's a 6th grader. Adults have forgotten that or don't do it naturally. Adam Walter does not listen naturally. I am a natural speaker. And so I have to actively listen, and I have to in breaks say, hey, how are things going? Which is why in our level 10s, that's why I love those meeting structures so much. It forces me to ask questions, and it forces me to go through and make sure that we are on topic and actively participating in the conversation and bringing something new out of it.
And I think that's an important element. If you aren't a natural listener, then you probably need to provide yourself some tools. One of the things that I love, it provides a lot of benefits, but is when we use our platform with our clients, I'm always telling everyone, make sure you got the screen up live. It is a collaborative tool, and then begin putting your clients' words on the screen. And if you find yourself not typing anything, it's because your clients aren't talking. So when you get their words up on the screen, now we've got reference points. Now we know what we're talking about. It's not only that they are telling you the important elements, you're documenting it, and you can go and find some of those things. You can come back and say, hey, I researched this, and I think I can help you with this problem. But that ability to bring your clients in, what's really cool is, again, back to the stereotype that I think we've conditioned our customers to, that IT is going to show up and talk. And I can so clearly remember sitting in a conference room with the CEO. He is literally checking his watch pretty repeatedly, and he's got his phone in his hand, right? And he's leaning back in the chair, right? Because he's ready for another IT meeting, right? He's wondering why he's been, wrangled into the room. And we start out, and I'm asking questions, right? And these questions are ones that he has to answer. So here's the first one, and it kind of, responds. But then I get into the second one, and I so clearly remember him taking the phone and laying it not quite out of arm's reach, but it was over quite a ways and face down. And he sat up at the table. He put his elbows on the edge and was like, all right, this is something I want to talk about. I want to engage because I was listening to what he had to say. I was asking probing questions, and I was really engaging with him. So he wanted to engage with me. And we've got to take that approach. You may need some tools. You may need something to help you out. I've been experimenting with a new AI note taker, right? There are a million of them out there. And this one works with our CRM, and I thought I'll give it a try. It's got an annoyingly valuable feature that it has a little floater window that pops up, and I move it to the far left here so I don't see it, but it's got a monologue warning. And like right now, it would be going off because I've been talking too long, right? But that little yellow light pops up, and it's my reminder, shut up, Skip, and let your client talk.
That's a really great piece of technology. I did not know that.
It's great.
I did not know that. I get on like, oh crap. Okay. Looking at my counter, I just went for 3 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, stop talking, wrap it up, make your point, move on.
Yep.
Because it's hard, because especially when you have a lot of knowledge in your head and you're just trying to help this person. And I had this situation today where I was helping somebody move, and I met a whole bunch of new people while I was doing it. And people always ask me, what do you do for a living? Trick question for me, you know, because most people don't get what I do. Yeah. Right. I'm a technology SaaS provider, owner and director. That's going to put them in a snooze fest. So usually I say something quick. I say, hey, you know, I run a technology company here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Given the context I'm in, I will follow that up with several things else. If I'm at a church, I'll say, oh yeah, and I'm also an elder at this church. Or I will, if I'm sitting there with a bunch of people who are blue collar, I'll talk about how I like to work wood and I like to do lathe work. Or if I'm sitting with a bunch of people doing sports, I might mention that, you know, I really don't do much sports. I kind of sport out in college when I became an All-American. You know, something relatable.
Yep.
That now kicks off a conversation about something they care about. I'm trying to probe them for things that they're passionate about so I can do a Me Too conversation. Yep. And if you do that with your clients, what is your client passionate about? What do they want to talk about? Just because you're there as a technology professional doesn't mean they want to talk about technology. They may want to talk about, we need to cut costs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if that's the case, you know, do you want to talk about automating some of your roles at your company with some AI so that you can reduce like $10,000 a month in employee costs? Mm-hmm. Well, we want to retain our employees, but we still need to cut costs. Okay, let's talk about things that we can do technology-wise that will save you big bucks. You can cut costs on your MSP right now, and you might save like $300 a month. But if we work together and you tell me about your problem, we might be able to save you $10,000.
Yep.
Let's talk about this. But you have to give your client permission to talk, and you have to stop and listen.
That's true. So yeah, you got to be listening. Again, I get scores from, and I don't know if I like this tool because, like I said, it's got some annoyingly effective features that come out of it. The monologue, it will count them. I had a meeting today, and I was so happy because at the end of it, I got a score of one monologue. I was like, all right, I'm doing much, much better. But it also puts up there the percentage of talk time. How much did I talk versus the other people talking? And my goal is to get to 50%. I want to be at that 50% level. Now, my role that I'm in that's going to be hard because I am the goal of the meeting is for me to convey some information, but I still need to, even if I'm doing that, I still need to make sure I'm conveying the right information, the things that are really important to them, and they understand it. So it's going to have to be a two-way conversation.
So what's the name of the software you're using?
This one is Fathom.
It's like a Fathom.ai or what?
I think so. It was on the HubSpot marketplace. It was their top recommended one. And so I didn't have time to dig through it all. And I went, all right, I'll try it.
Just so our listeners have it and they may want to try it out. And so they can be better at listening. I know it's a constant battle for me. And I really want to bring it up. I love this podcast because I want people to know that, like, you know, I interrupt Skip a lot. And, you know, it's something I try to work on. And you do the same thing to your clients.
Yeah.
And if you really pay attention, if your clients are not attending your meetings, if it's hard to get into a client meeting, then it's probably because they're used to like, oh, not one of these. If you start listening to them and you start building the conversation, as Skip was saying, if you're building the conversation, you're bringing something new out of it. Now people are going to want to be in it because the next meeting, they're going to be like, what else am I going to learn?
Yeah.
Or what are we going to build today in this conversation? And that's how you know you're listening, is when you're playing off each other and building something together that you couldn't have done alone. Thank you, Skip, for coming on. And I think next week I'm going to have like Mike Giovanni on for IT Nation preview of what our talk is going to be about.
Oh, that'll be cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you. And we'll talk to you later.
See y'all.